Well, I guess creative genius runs in the family, like father, like son. Hello, I'm Notes, and we have the first album released by Next to None, the first full-length album released by them. We've had a couple EPs, we've had a couple singles, but this is the first solid LP. A Light in the Dark, and it starts off with quite a nice punch. I must admit, I am really surprised by these boys. They are still kids, still technically teenagers, and they are putting out music akin to a lot of their forefathers, literally their fathers. These boys are wearing their influences on their sleeves on this release. You can definitely hear Avenged Sevenfold, Dream Theater, and even a little bit of Haken, who they were touring with a couple months ago. So we've got a lot of that great progressive metal going on here. And the songs are crafted very, very well. We have 3 songs that are a little bit on the longer side. We have Edge of Sanity, we have Control, and we have Blood on My Hands. All of these songs are very well done and very well crafted. And the album doesn't have any real low point as well, which I am very surprised about. Most of the times when you have a debut album like this, there are a few filler songs, a few songs that the boys haven't quite finished yet that just kind of put them out. But that's not on this album. Each song is very well done. Getting into the nitty-gritties of this album, The Edge of Sanity is a really great starter track, and it opens the album beautifully. It really sets the tone for what we're going to expect through the rest of the album. Through the middle section, where you kind of have that descent into madness, I cannot help but love. You have a lot of those really strange sound effects that are going on that a lot of progressive metal bands are doing. Instead of it being kind of just shoved in there, they kind of nod to a lot of the younger crowds with sounds such as Pac-Man. And I love the fact that they use a sound from SpongeBob SquarePants with chocolate. I thought that was so well done, and when I heard that, it fit perfectly with the theme of the song, which is you're on the edge of sanity. So that, coupled with the music that is just kind of really pounding the head, this was a really, really well done song. And of course you have that single that they've been releasing, You Are Not Me. And I do like the themes of this song, especially at a young age, you know, kind of that teenage angst. I do like how these guys are putting that out there. They're kind of filling that gap that we've had in the progressive metal scene for a while there, just because a lot of the progressive metal bands have aged with time. So that angst, that teenage voice is kind of void. So now that we have Next to None coming in there, it's filling that void. It's filling those shoes that we needed to have filled. And You Are Not Me is a really good way of doing that. But I will admit, my favorite song comes at the 3rd track, and that is Runaway. There's a point right around the mid section where the song breaks down, and we just are introduced to the theme of that bass. And the bass is really giving it, really chugging that song forward. And it slowly starts to build up, and instead of just like pounding it right in your face right off the get-go, the boys take their time. They really set the stage, and then we get rewarded by this. It's that perfect build-up and payoff. That keyboard solo that we have in that end of that build-up is really, really delicious. I keep having to remind myself, these are just kids. These are just, you know, teenagers that are writing this music, and yet they still kind of have that air of they've been around the block a few times. They still kind of have that experienced flavor to them. And this song, Runaway, really shows that with that synth. And when it first came on, I was blown away. I could not help but love that song. And then we kind of have a little bit of a slowdown, and again, as I mentioned before, because there's no low point on this album, those slower tracks are still great listens. You have A Lonely Walk, which, although can be melodramatic at times, never really gets to that point. It never gets to that melodramatic, and it's just a really nice kind of that ballad, that metal ballad that we deserve on this kind of an album. And then of course we come to the next longer song, and I think it's actually the longest song on the album. And this song of Control really shows how the band is integrated. They have this really great jam session around the midpoint of the song, and again, it really showcases these guys' talents. rounding off the album, we have Lost, which essentially sounds like a reworking of In the Hall of the Mountain King, especially with that opening riff. There's only 2 or 3 notes that are changed on that just to make it feel a little bit fresh. And at first it drew me out of the song because I kept hearing In the Hall of the Mountain King, but as the song grew on me, it was a much richer sound. And it blends perfectly into Social Anxiety. We see that Next to None is just as comfortable tackling these really hard-hitting issues such as social anxiety, and they approach it in a very, very nice way. And to close off the album, we have the very beautiful Blood on My Hands. This song, unlike a lot of the other songs where they just kind of hit the one note and stuck to it, this song, Blood on My Hands, really showcases that up and down that these guys have to progress a longer song. They don't just hunker down and stay in place and see what territory comes up. No, they actually go quite a bit in this song, so I really enjoyed that. So all in all, A Light in the Dark is a very great introduction to Next to None. It showcases what the boys are capable of and how well they play. Even though it has a little bit of an experienced edge to it, mainly on the production side and the sound quality and the harmonizations and more of like the overall package and the production, there is a little bit of inexperience found within these boys, and that's mainly just due to their age. They're still new to the game, they're still fresh, and they're still learning, and they still have a lot of room to grow. And it is felt on this album, but still, with all of that taken into consideration, this is still very brilliant work that these kids have done, and I applaud them. I would definitely say that this is a great listen from start to finish, and I would highly recommend picking this up if you like that progressive metal, or even if you like metal. There's enough hard-hitting oomph here to capture your interest, to really keep you listening. And that's it. What did you guys think of this? Are you just as excited for Next to None as I am? I cannot wait to hear what these boys have next. Alright, that's it. Notes out.